Hey everybody, welcome to the very first episode of Underdog TV's Sunday Funday. It's an NFL pregame show, an answer to what I call grab-ass television on the television network, CBS, Fox, ESPN, NFL, all that stuff. If you have ever seen an NFL pregame show in the morning, it is awful. I don't think that they're even made for NFL fans. I think it's honestly something that as an NFL fan, you kind of turn it on the background and hope that something football analysis like turns on. But what is really devolved into is just kind of like a bunch of older people being forced to pretend to laugh at other people's jokes. I'm not into it. So this is Underdog's first attempt, and this is going to be a moving target. So, if you're catching this for the first time, thanks for the view. Please comment because, we definitely want to add some segment ideas. If you think we're missing something, if you think we're missing the mark, if you think we're hitting the mark, please just let us know. Let's make it interactive. We'll build this show together. But for today, it's little old me. I'm going to be kind of going through the show. And here's what I'm going to give you today. I'm going to give you a Sunday-specific episode of the Fantasy Football Fallout where we're going to detail injuries and the impacts on the games and most importantly, your fantasy football roster. We're going to bring RoccoBot back to make his Pick 6 selections. Now, usually this would be an area where I and Brad from the Get Paid podcast would talk about our favorite 6 bets of the week. Brad and I, when we did the Pick 6 show earlier in the year, we were at 60%. Well, since I don't have my co-host this week, we are going to bring RoccoBot, who, by the way, is also 60%. If you're an NFL bettor, you're going to want to see that segment. We're going to take a deep dives. I aired a San Francisco versus New Orleans episode of the game plan earlier this week. We'll be airing that. Re-airing that here. Then we also are premiering the Kansas City Chiefs versus the New England Patriots. Another huge game plan episode. We'll bring RoccoBot back for his top 10 computer projections of every position: quarterback, running back, tight end, wide receiver, and defense and special teams. And then we're going to close because I couldn't get Chris Horadell. I'm giving him all the peer pressure this guy can take. Chris Horadell, host of the Underdog podcast, also the Underdog NFL Show, also You're Wrong and Here's Why. We have a lot of segments of his airing. We are going to get him up, and he's going to be a personality. You're going to see his face just like you see mine. But I didn't get that yet, so what I am going to do is air an excerpt of his discussion with his co-host on the NFL show, Mario Hines, talking about Odell Beckham and whether or not Odell Beckham is trying to force his way out of Cleveland. So we got a full slate. I don't know where this is going to land. It's probably going to be about an hour, so let's call it the Sunday Funday Football Power Hour. Once again, we are the answer to the grab-ass television, that half-assed NFL analysis show that everybody's subjected to. So let's be the answer. Once again, let's create a community here. Eventually, maybe we'll even do these things live stream and chat with you while these things air. But let's see where it goes. With no further ado, let's start with the Fantasy Football Fallout. All right, and this is the Fantasy Football Fallout edition for injuries, key injuries of the NFL season. Now, apologize because, once again, this is week 1, and I'm literally recording this on Saturday night, just trying to get this thing out as fast as I can so people can watch it. But I'm going to go game by game here, talking about key injuries, one by one by each game, as I see it for not only the score of the game, but more specifically your fantasy football rosters. For Baltimore versus Buffalo, nothing really concerns me on the Buffalo side of things injury-wise. Baltimore, Marquise Brown is out. How do I think he affects the game? I think Baltimore needs to stretch this defense vertically. If you watch my game plan episode where I went into the path to success for both the Ravens and the Bills, I feel very strongly that the Bills' defense matches up well. Now, as well as you can match up against a really crazy, awesome talent like Lamar Jackson, but really to basically stretch the field vertically, Baltimore needs Marquise Goodwin to do that, okay? So if Marquise Goodwin's drawing targets and basically Buffalo's safeties then have to start rolling coverage over there because they're concerned about him, what does that do? That opens up things basically underneath that window between the linebacker and the safety. Suddenly that gets a little bit bigger, and then Mark Andrews can live in there all day. So he's a big matchup for me tactically speaking. I don't think he'll have a great fantasy performance regardless, but in terms of the output or the impact of the game, I think he's a big one. Carolina versus Atlanta, the only really player of note from my point of view that's out in this game, Julio, by the way, as of the recording of this episode, is planning on being in, but Greg Greg Olsen out with a concussion for Carolina. Do you play if you're hurting at tight end? Do you play Ian Thomas? My answer is no. I just want to call that out there. Don't pick up Carolina's backup tight end this week. It's too risky. Cincinnati versus Cleveland. By the way, David Njoku has been activated, so he'll be in there. A.J. Green is out, but I believe John Ross, I forgot to see whether or not they've officially reactivated him or not, but I believe that basically means Auden Tate, John Ross, and Tyler Boyd with Andy Dalton now throwing the ball are going to have bigger than expected games. A.J. Brown, I doubt he plays for the rest of the season for what that's worth, but I do think the Cincinnati Bengals wide receivers do have an uptick in performance, and David Njoku, I like him if you're desperate at tight end rather than get somebody like an Ian Thomas who I was just talking about. I like the prospects of David Njoku and a couple of other guys. Houston versus Denver. Will Fuller, once again questionable with the hamstring. I tend to think he'll play, but he's a guy that misses time, especially with those tender hamstrings of his. He needs to maybe get some more fish oil in his diet. Maybe he needs to do a little bit more stretching, get into that gym, do some Pilates, my friend. But Will Fuller, as I've been saying week in and week out, he adds another layer into this team. And Houston is a different team now. You don't think of Will Fuller as a vital cog in what Houston does, but he really is, because when Will Fuller's back there, defenses respect his speed. They have to, because he's so fast and he's great at stretching the field. And what does that do? That opens things up for DeAndre Hopkins. And vice versa, DeAndre Hopkins being on the field opens things up for Will Fuller. It really opens up to what they want to do offensively. So Will Fuller is out. I do think that this Houston game becomes a little bit more of a dogfight. I think that spreads around 9, give or take a half point or so. If Will Fuller doesn't play, I'm actually on Denver to cover that game. Now, I think Houston wins regardless, but Will Fuller is a big piece in what Houston wants to do offensively. Next game on the list, we have Detroit versus Minnesota. Detroit is now on their 8th or 9th starting quarterback. Stafford's obviously out. I actually have a good projection on the quarterback, but I wouldn't play that in my fantasy football lineup. If you're a daily fantasy player, I think you can do that. Minnesota, Adam Thielen at this point, at the time of this recording, is doubtful, not likely to play. What that means for Minnesota and what that has meant, Dalvin Cook is also a little banged up. He looks to be playing. I think we're going to see Alexander Mattison handle some more tough carries inside the tackle box. Dalvin Cook's going to be kind of running off tackle and being more involved in the passing game. And then also when Thielen is out, Kyle Rudolph becomes a lot bigger of an impact player offensively and for fantasy football. So if you're hurting a tight end, Kyle Rudolph this week with Adam Thielen out, I like him against the Detroit Lions. Moving forward, we have Indianapolis versus Tampa Bay. The big news there is T.Y. Hilton is out of the game, which means guys like Pascal, I believe Paris Campbell's going to be back this week. You guys got a few guys in Indianapolis, but the one I really like is Jack Doyle. Eric Ebron is out now. He's on the injured reserve. I believe Jack Doyle will receive basically double-digit targets, which gets you receptions, which gets you yards, which gets you touchdown opportunities. Miami versus the New York Jets. Ryan Griffin, Le'Veon Bell, both projected as questionable. I like both of these guys for fantasy purposes. Now, I think that they'll play. Le'Veon Bell, I think, is going to have his best game of the year this week, and Ryan Griffin, I think, could definitely get in the end zone, so I hope to see those guys play. If they don't, what happens? You got to look at guys like Bilal Powell. You got to look at guys like Montgomery, and then you look at, if Griffin's out, you look at Crowder working the middle a little bit more for the New York Jets. For the San Francisco 49ers and New Orleans Saints, New Orleans has a couple of linebackers out. And the interesting thing is, when I did the deep dive, and you're going to see this a little bit later, those linebackers have done a fantastic job of covering tight ends this year. Well, San Francisco has a pretty good tight end. They need those guys to play. They're both questionable. We'll see what happens. Check out the deep dive, the game plan episode that will be airing later on in this show. Washington versus Green Bay. Washington, Trey Quinn's out. Does that really matter? I don't think it does. Washington's going to lose anyway. The Chargers versus Jacksonville. No injuries of note from a fantasy football point of view. Kansas City versus New England. Interesting injuries here. You have Kansas City. Damian Williams is out. Maurice Claiborne is out. Fenton is out. So you had some defensive pieces for Kansas City, and then you have your primary running back. So the running back duties, now that Darrell Williams is also out, you're looking at Darwin Thompson to continue to ascend, and you have LaShawn McCoy back there holding the ball like a loaf of bread at the grocery store, just holding the ball out here. Every single play, he runs like Deion Sanders returning a pickoff in the 90s. It's awful, horrible fundamentals, but it seems to have worked out. He's had a nice career. For New England, Julian Edelman, Mohamed Sanu, a pair of wide receivers. You know what? Last week, a couple things for New Orleans, and they also have, I believe, 2 offensive linemen that they're out as well for New England. I always say New Orleans, New England. So New England's getting their running game going. I actually like Sony Michel this week. We'll talk about that in the game plan episode that will air. And I'd like Jacoby Myers to start stepping up for the Patriots and take more of a role. Now, for Kansas City, they need to get the run game going against New England. So I don't know that they have kind of like a power running setup at this point. So it becomes more and more important. And these defensive backs, if there's anything New England can do to basically kind of spur this offense, it's hopefully get some defensive pieces and neutralize Kansas City because of these injuries. Next game on the list, Pittsburgh versus Arizona. James Conner, Juju Smith-Schuster both out at this point for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That means Benny Snell is going to have a great game, and the passing attack is going to struggle a little bit. I think Pittsburgh needs to use Vance McDonald. Are they going to do it? As I talked about in my game plan release for Pittsburgh versus Arizona, I don't have any faith that they actually will utilize the tight end. That's not really what they do, but we'll see how it goes. Tennessee versus Oakland. Adoree Jackson out. Tennessee's basically their defensive backs have been banged up and they're hurt. That helps obviously the offense for the Oakland Raiders. Meanwhile, Hunter Renfrow, Trent Brown both out for the Oakland Raiders. Oakland Raiders like to run the ball, but their entire right side of the line is banged up. You do have two of the guys playing there, but it's going to be tough sledding. Even Josh Jacobs is banged up. Derrick Henry's banged up. Everybody's banged up in the NFL these days. But it's really going to be about can Tyrell Williams, basically beat his coverage? Well, with Tennessee hurting at defensive back, hopefully for the Raiders' sake, they can do that. Hopefully for the Tennessee Titans' sake, they don't, okay? Next game on the list, we have Seattle versus the LA Rams. The Rams missing an offensive tackle. Rams missing Gerald Everett. That means Tyler Higbee is ready to roll and have a great game. We'll talk about him later with the RoccoBot projects top 10s. And then we need to see a little bit more running. It's not good when you're missing your right tackle as the Rams are. They're going to need a full slate there. Giants versus Eagles, Monday Night Football. You got Evan Ingram and Rhett Ellison both graded as out as of the time of this recording. That means Caden Smith. If you're hurting at tight end, he's probably my favorite, along with maybe Kyle Rudolph. Waiver wire pickup and play at tight end. For Philadelphia, Jordan Howard, Nelson Aguilar, both questionable. We've been talking about, and we'll air a New York Giants versus Eagles game plan later in the week as well. But the Eagles are utilizing two tight ends at this point to move the chains because they don't have a deep threat. Nelson Aguilar, he just drops too many passes to be worth, or basically to earn his draft position from years and years ago. I think it's kind of a failed experiment. I do think that the Eagles will make some moves in the offseason. But for this week, it's going to be interesting. Jordan Howard, if he can play, if he can't play, I don't think that's that big of a deal. It's all about Miles Sanders in the running game for me. I think Jay Ajayi would be just fine. So there you go. That takes me through the Fantasy Football Fallout Injury Edition. The updates for everybody from an actionable betting and fantasy and daily fantasy perspective. Let's move it on now to the next stage of the show, which is RoccoBot Predicts, the Pick 6 portion of the episode. All right, now before we get rolling with the pick 6, and I give you the picks, I want to offer this disclaimer out here. Gambling illegally, that'd be stupid, okay? Don't gamble illegally. If it's not legal, don't do it. I'm not endorsing it. Don't do it. Gamble money that you can't afford to lose. That would be stupid as well, okay? So basically the whole story of all these rules here is don't be an idiot. If you think you have a problem, don't gamble it. If you lose, these are computer projections that I'm sharing with you. I don't want the responsibility. If you play them and you lose, that's your fault, not mine, and not RoccoBot, okay? Don't ever blame RoccoBot. But let's just go ahead and get to the picks. You see the disclaimer. Don't be an idiot, and I don't endorse illegal gambling, and I'm not guaranteeing these picks by any stretch. These are for entertainment purposes only. Let's make the picks here. RoccoBot's top 6 in terms of margin against the spread. Baltimore -6, Carolina -3, San Francisco +3, Indianapolis +3, Arizona +3, Oakland +3. Now, if I look at this, okay, let's just talk about these games. Baltimore -6, RoccoBot thinks Baltimore wins 35-16. I think the matchup, as I did my game plan earlier, I think the matchup's actually going to be a little bit closer, well, a lot closer than that. I do like Baltimore to win by a touchdown, so I would take Baltimore still. I agree with RoccoBot, but 20 points, I don't see it that way. I know Baltimore fans do. I know Buffalo fans don't. I lean towards being with the Buffalo fans here. Let's see here. Carolina, I'm staying away from that Carolina Atlanta. That's a toxic matchup, but RoccoBot feels really good about it. Carolina 29 to Atlanta 20. Carolina basically winning outright according to RoccoBot and getting points. It likes that. San Francisco versus New Orleans. I agree with this pick. Okay, I agree. San Francisco +3. I did a game deep dive, which I'm airing later in this show as well, and you'll see why. But San Francisco, I do think they win this game outright. You can see that RoccoBot thinks this is a half point projection, and yes, this is weighted for home and away teams. So the team that's projected to win, once again, even money line, RoccoBot would take San Francisco there. Indianapolis +3. They need the game. I actually like this pick as well. They need the game. Now, I don't love that T.Y. Hilton is out, but I do think that Indianapolis will respond and take care of business on the road in Tampa Bay. Arizona +3. Very interesting. So the Pittsburgh Steelers are projected to lose outright according to RoccoBot. I didn't agree with that. I did a deep dive on this, and I actually like Pittsburgh a little bit more, even with James Conner out, even with Juju Smith-Schuster out. But I do like the Arizona Cardinals. They're better than advertised. They play tough football. The problem is that here's what the real problem is in this matchup, as I talk about in the game plan. Not part of this show, but check that out. Check that episode out. Pittsburgh's advantage is, I think, short, intermediate routes, and they're trying to throw the ball over the top. So if they can be a little bit more disciplined, play a little bit more small ball, then I think they win. But you see, RoccoBot disagrees. They likes Arizona, and I don't have a strong argument. Lastly, Oakland +3 versus Tennessee. It likes Tennessee, though. It likes Tennessee to win the game, but likes Oakland to cover the spread after that. Those are the top 6 bets in terms of margin. You can see, actually, when we get down, you're at like a 2-point margin. So it thinks out of the 16 games this week. By the way, it was wrong on the Dallas-Chicago one earlier. It had Chicago, I think, losing the spread by a point, and obviously they came through. But so the whole week, you figure out of 16 games, 10 of them are about lower than 2 points. So, I mean, this is why Vegas makes money, right? But I will say RoccoBot, here are just some stats for you. RoccoBot, in its top 5 picks throughout the year, has been 60%. So I'm sharing these with you, and we'll see what happens, though. So there you go. It takes me through RoccoBot. Now, for the next segment, let's go ahead and show that deep dive of San Francisco versus the New Orleans Saints, and then we'll be back right after that airing. But let's start this episode, as I always do, with the key injuries. And I have to say, San Francisco has a lot of names on this list, but this is honestly probably the healthiest I've seen them in about 2 months. Seriously, as good as this 49ers team is, they're 10-2. Their 2 losses were on the last plays of the game, basically, to Seattle in overtime and in Baltimore last week. Look, this is a very good game, very good team. I don't love that their defense is banged up, but I think a lot of these guys are questionable, and their offensive line is healthy, finally. George Kittle is going to be he's going to be questionable for the rest of the season, but I think he's going to play. The Saints, meanwhile, Armstead, you got Pete, the left guard, he was out. I think that's a big injury. We'll talk about that in a bit. Kiko Alonso and Klein, I think those are big injuries, and we'll talk about them in a bit. We're talking game tactics. I'll get to that during the game plan. Let's look at the key stats here, and I do these in terms of yardage accumulation, just basically, how many passing yards do you have, how many running yards do you have, and I put position group versus position group. So you see at the top of the list there, we have the passing offense of the 49ers ranked 16th versus the 17th ranked passing defense of the Saints. Then you have the 9th ranked passing offense of the Saints versus the 1st ranked passing defense of the 49ers. Run offense is 2nd versus 3rd defense for the Saints, and then vice versa. You have the 17th ranked run offense versus the 22nd ranked run defense for the 49ers. I'm surprised they're that low, but hey, when your passing defense is that good, the teams have to attack you some way, and it just happens to be running. If I look at this and I'm looking for advantages, what do I see? I think that as good as the Saints passing offense has been, and credit, of course, Drew Brees, credit Michael Thomas, who's a monster, but when you look at this team, they basically have Michael Thomas, they have Jared Cook sometimes, you have Alvin Kamara in the backfield, and you have a lot of scheme. And that scheme, I got to say, Coach Payton's doing a hell of a job this year. There are going to be other coaches that are going to be talked about for Coach of the Year, but Payton is doing a hell of a job, in my opinion. We'll talk about the tactics a little bit later. I do favor the 49ers defense more than the very talented Saints passing offense, but again, I'll talk about that in a bit. Running-wise, I do think the Saints can run on the 49ers, but I think they have to do it a certain way, a way that they don't generally utilize, but we'll talk about that as well. And I think the San Francisco running offense versus the third-ranked run defense, very interesting matchup. That defensive line for New Orleans could hold the game in the palms of their hands. They need to get it done this week. Let's move on to the key analytics here. Now, I call these analytics because gamblers, professional gamblers, they like to use these stats. And, of course, there's always a lot more that goes into it. But these are kind of the key drivers. Yards per play, both offensively and defensively. How efficient are you in key situations such as third and fourth down, offensively and defensively? And, of course, in the red zone, can you punch it into the end zone and get a touchdown, or are you taking field goals? Lastly, we have what I call basically your discipline metrics. Do you take care of the ball, and are you decent in terms of penalty yardage against? So let's talk about these. You see 49ers, they gain per play 5.8 yards per play, and they give up 4.3 defensively. That 4.3 number is incredible. A net of the 49ers of 1.5 yards per play if you compare their offense versus defense. Now the Saints, meanwhile, they get offensively 5.8. They give up 5.1 for a net of 0.7. That's also very good. It's just not astronomically good like we see from the 49ers. Now, if you compare these, back and forth, you see the 49ers are at a plus 0.7 offensively, and you see that the Saints are, I guess, at a plus 1.5, but if you merge these two together, you could consider, basically the 49ers are going to offensively get about 4.5 yards per play, give or take, and you can see the Saints are probably more like at about a 5, again, if you're just taking straight averages. You look at the key, third down, fourth down conversions. I think both of these teams, 40s, low to mid 40s. Defensively, they're both very good at getting off the field. No surprise there. These are 2-10-2 teams, right? The New Orleans Saints are now the number 1 seed. Last week, the 49ers were the number 1 seed. Now they are the number 5 seed. Can you believe it? They dropped 4 spots, and they're 10-2. They might be the best ever 5 seed in the playoffs. Seriously, they're incredible. Fourth down conversions, you see kind of similar stats there. I will say the 49ers defense is better at getting off the field on fourth down than the Saints have been, and they've been better at pushing drives forward. So what that means is at the end of the game, right, if the Saints need to score, and it's 4 down territory or something like that, I think it's more likely that the 49ers get the Saints off the field than if the situation is reversed and 49ers need to score. They are more likely to extend the drive in the fourth down. I think this is going to be a very close game, so that is actually a pretty key stat for me. Whoever takes the lead into the fourth quarter, I kind of favor there. Turnover margin, both teams are on the plus side. The Saints doing a little bit better at plus 0.9. I got to say, I'm surprised that the Saints are giving up 68 yards in penalty. That's not a great stat to me, but it's not much worse than the 49ers, so it's fine. Let's talk about path to victory, because tactically, I looked at the play charts all season, as I do when I put together my daily fantasy football metrics. I look at, the position grouping, I look at rankings and all this stuff. Let's start with the 49ers. Look, Michael Thomas is the key to the passing game. He's so good, and Drew Brees is so accurate. They're going to get him passes. As good as the San Francisco 49ers defense is, Michael Thomas, you can't shut him down entirely. I just don't believe it's going to happen, okay? So he's going to get it, but I think they're going to limit him, not shut him down, but limit him, and I think that's a key to the game. Obviously, you can't have him going for 2 touchdowns. You'll lose the game that way. Kamara is going to be used. I think he's going to be used more off tackle and out of the backfield, and I think the 49ers will take their lumps with that. I just don't think they want to have any of the other guys that probably need to step up for New Orleans to step up. So I think they'll take their medicine there, and they'll probably try to guard the interior of that defensive line. Test the New Orleans Saints secondary deep. We know what the New Orleans Saints run defense is like, 3rd in the league. They're very good. They're very talented. Hardly anybody ever I talk to them about them every week, but I never hear anybody else talk about them. They're very, very good. And then Yeah, so the secondary, you got to test them deep because you don't want linebackers starting to crowd up in coverage. You don't want safety start to come up to the box. You know that the 49ers are going to run the ball. They will establish the run. Their offensive line is very good and they're healthy again. But I do believe Garoppolo is going to have to test this secondary deep and keep them honest, okay? Next to last, I should say, I like how the Saints secondary matches up against San Francisco, but they're banged up at linebacker. Now, throughout the season, I think they've done a very good job of covering linebackers, but with two of their linebackers out, I do think Kittle needs to step up, and I do think he'll need to win this battle. I need to see Kittle have about 80 to 100 yards of receiving this week to feel good about the 49ers and the stat sheet after the fact. Lastly, I think the Saints' defensive strength lines up well with what the 49ers want to do. Matchup-wise, I think it comes down to Debo and Emmanuel Sanders winning their matchups. I don't know who Lattimore is going to be on, in my opinion. Let's just move over to the Saints because this is kind of a combined point. In my opinion, Debo Samuel is helping this offense move at this point. I think, and yes, I know Emmanuel Sanders has been banged up, and that's an issue as well, but so has Debo Samuel. I think Lattimore matches up against Samuel. I think that's what I would do. We'll see what happens, okay? But either way, I think these guys for the 49ers have to win the day there. Now, let's talk about the Saints. Control the line of scrimmage defensively, as I was talking about before. Emmanuel Sanders, I mentioned, but like I said, Debo Samuel seems to be more important, so that's why I say match up Lattimore on him. Involve Latavius Murray. I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I do think the Saints are going to have to attack the San Francisco defensive line with the run game. The teams that have had the most success against San Francisco this year have had a power running game, and I believe the Saints are going to have to basically involve Latavius Murray. Now, that's not a shot at Alvin Kamara by any means. What I'm saying is have Alvin Kamara work off tackle, have him work in the flats, have him work as a receiver, and just punish Latavius Murray and that San Francisco defensive line. Just run him up the middle and just tire them out as best as you can. I don't have Kamara taking those snaps. Those are down and dirty snaps. I want to keep Kamara fresh for other options. Now, I usually hate when Taysom Hill comes in, and I especially hate when he comes in and they move Drew Brees to the sideline, and Drew Brees just doesn't move because, of course, he doesn't want to get hit, and why would you? I think Taysom Hill adds another layer to this team. I do think they should sprinkle him in, but when they do it, and I say this, if you're going to do it, then do it. Take Brees off the field in that situation. I'm sorry, but if you have Brees against the San Francisco defense that's just going to be flying around to the ball, you can't play 10 on 11. If Brees is out there, they're not going to have to respect him. He's not going to go out for a route. And believe me, if I'm the 49ers defense, if I'm the defensive coordinator, I would just crash. I don't know why other teams don't do this. I would just crash. And you know what? If they do have the stones to throw the ball to Drew Brees 10 to 15 yards down the field, have your free safety take a shot on Drew Brees. I would love that if I was a defense. I would give up those 15 yards in that one play because they won't do it again after that. I can tell you that. Now, the New Orleans Saints, take them off the field, man. If you have Taysom Hill, run some read option, put another receiver in there. Go 11 on 11, and Taysom Hill's talented. So if you're going to do it, do it. Don't have Brees on the sideline just not running a route. It doesn't make any sense. It's stupid. And I like Peyton. I gave him love at the beginning of the show, but that's dumb. And it's not going to work against San Francisco, I can tell you that. Lastly, I think Jared Cook needs to win his matchup. It's tough to attack the San Francisco defense. That's what I was saying. You have to really kind of take your lumps in the running game, tire that defensive line out, take your 3 yards per carry in the first few quarters. Things will start to open up after that. And even having a run game in that establish of the run helps Michael Thomas both run his slants and go over the top as well. And by the way, Traquan Smith, Ted Ginn, somebody like that, if you're a Saints fan or if you're an NFL fan, you believe the Saints are going to win this game, it's going to be because a guy like Ted Ginn or Traquan Smith steps up. So if you truly believe that, I suggest playing them in daily fantasy, and that's actually a great segue to my fantasy football stats. Let's talk about the 49ers first. Jimmy Garoppolo, this is kind of a fringe start. I think he has to have a nice game to beat the Saints, and I think he will actually have a nice game. I think that I would not start him, though, in my fantasy football lineup. Tevin Coleman, Raheem Mostert, I like both of them. I think Mostert's better, but he doesn't always get the carries, though. I do think Coleman will be involved. It's kind of like a committee hot hand approach. We'll see what happens. Mostert had the hot hand last week. Will he have it another week? I don't know. Debo Samuel, Emmanuel Sanders, they're both kind of fringe starts for me, but I would take Debo Samuel this week. Kendrick Bourne, not a great projection there. George Kittle, I do think you start him, and I do think that is a start-worthy number there. And then defense and special teams, I like San Francisco, and I think they'll get to Drew Brees a couple of times this game. So sacks, I don't know about turnovers, but I think he'll get you some sacks, and that's a big deal. By the way, as we move forward into the New Orleans Saints projections here, RoccoBot is my daily fantasy sports basically computer projection engine. I don't always agree with RoccoBot, but I'm happy to give these rankings out for free, and if I don't agree, I will tell you why. Now, Drew Brees, look, here's one I disagree with right here. Drew Brees is projected at 13.4. That's based on the strength of the San Francisco 49ers defense and what they've done to other quarterbacks throughout the year. So there's not a shot on Drew Brees. Let me tell you this, I'm going to overrule RoccoBot. I think he's more in that 18 range, just like we saw Garoppolo. I do think this game's going to be a little bit lower scoring than I think both teams are accustomed to seeing their offenses do. I think both defenses are very, very good, and I think that it'll be an interesting game. Alvin Kamara, I think, is a definite start. Latavius Murray at 2.7. I suspect that Coach Payton is going to be playing Latavius Murray a little bit more, so I think he'll beat that projection. I like Latavius Murray maybe even as a budget play, but I wouldn't play him in my fantasy football playoffs, that's for sure. Michael Thomas, definite start. I mentioned Ginn and Smith. I don't like either of these projections. If you believe in your heart of hearts that the Saints will win, start one of these guys in daily fantasy because it'll be worth it. Jared Cook has to outplay this projection for the Saints to win. And then the defense and special teams for the Saints, I actually like them a little bit more to beat this projection. I think they'll be in the 7 to 8 range, which is the definite start. So there you go. That takes me through the San Francisco 49ers versus the New Orleans Saints. Huge game, massive game. I can't wait to watch it. It's going to be on one of my TVs, believe me. And we're back from that San Francisco New Orleans preview. And I tell you what, why don't we just keep it rolling right now with the analysis for the New England Patriots and Kansas City Chiefs. Another huge, huge game with two of the top teams now in the AFC. Please, everybody, 2 seconds of your time, 2 clicks, a like and a subscribe. Help our channel grow. We need your engagement to do that. A little bit of effort for you goes a long way for us. But let's start, as I always do, with the key injuries for the Chiefs. You have Damian Williams out. You have Frank Clark, questionable at defensive end. Not too bad. Now, Damian Williams, I don't like that he's out. I do think that he is the best running back on the roster. They also lost Darrell Williams. That sucks. But LaShawn McCoy and Darwin Thompson will be carrying the load. As long as, if LaShawn McCoy can just stop holding the ball like this and start holding the ball like this, I think he'd be a little bit of a better running back. We'll see how it goes. Now, the Patriots, a lot more banged up, as you can see. Julian Edelman, Mohamed Sanu, their center's out. You got a right tackle who's questionable, a cornerback who's questionable, a strong safety who's questionable. A lot of injuries for the Patriots. It's nothing new for this team. This team is well coached. They have a next man up philosophy, yada, yada, yada. We all know that. But Edelman has to play, I think. Sanu, I got to be honest with you. When I watch these games, I feel like Jacoby Myers is better than Sanu is today. Philip Dorsett is finally not listed on the injury report, so that's nice. He'll be kind of running some stuff out of the slot along with Julian Edelman. I like Philip Dorsett. He gets a lot of touchdowns when he's healthy, but I think it's time for Jacoby Myers and N'Keal Harry to both step up. Mohamed Sanu, I like him though, and I think the Patriots like him because he's a smart player and he blocks. So when he's on the field, he doesn't have to come off the field in different situations. He can stay on the field and block. So that's a very positive thing from New England's point of view. But let's go ahead and let's move it over to the key stats. We know this team. It's offense versus defense for this game, I should say. Kansas City's offense versus New England's defense. It's a game I've circled on my calendar at the beginning of the year. I think a lot of NFL fans have. Let's talk about this passing offense. It's third ranked in spite of Patrick Mahomes missing a couple games. Third-ranked passing offense in the league versus the second-ranked passing defense in the league. Obviously, that's the key matchup, right? Can Mahomes get it done? Can he have a few touchdown passes? Can the Patriots lock down on Tyreek Hill? We'll talk about that in a bit. Pass offense for the Patriots, 8th. For as much flack as this Patriots team is getting about not being able to get their offense, they do have a top 10 passing offense. Go figure, right? Versus the 16th ranked passing defense for the Chiefs. But I don't freak out about that. The Chiefs, especially at the beginning of the year, were out in front of teams so much that teams had to pass. So, of course, if teams are going to be attacking you, the passing grade is going to be a little bit down. I will say they have improved. Basically, once Mahomes got injured, this defense really started stepping up, and they're getting better and better. And remember, their defensive coordinator, Spagnuolo there, he was the Patriot killer when he was the defensive coordinator with the Giants. This team, new defense, year one, it's starting to get better and better, I think. Run offense for the Chiefs, this is the big weakness here, 24th. They can't get anything going in the run. You see the Patriots, the 5th ranked running defense, not a great matchup. And then the run offense for the Patriots, only 21st versus the 30th ranked running defense for the Kansas City Chiefs. I look at this, okay, and we've all heard in the press, we've all seen the games. We're like, oh, yeah, Patriots, are they past their prime? The defending Super Bowl champion, by the way, New England Patriots, are they past their prime? The Patriots who played the powerful Rams offense and then shut them out in the first half last year. Look, the Patriots, if they don't have an offense, their defense is really, really good, and they can keep it up, okay? But I think this Chiefs offense is probably going to be one of the better offenses, along with Baltimore, right, who they play all season long. It's a unique test, but the good thing is the Patriots are very familiar because they've played the Chiefs so many times. Now, I think the Chiefs are going to be able to pass the ball. I don't think they're going to be able to rush the ball, but I do think they have to commit to the rushing the ball, and we'll talk about that later. Let's get to the key analytics. Analytics, what I mean by key analytics, gamblers, when they look at, before they're making their bets, first thing they do generally is look at yards per play, situational football, third down, fourth down conversions, your red zone touchdown, how many touchdowns are you getting as opposed to field goal opportunities, and especially with the Patriots because they can't find a kicker to make an extra point or a field goal. It's ridiculous. Then you look at turnover margin penalties. I call those discipline stats. Are you giving the ball away? Are you giving stupid yardage away? Are your cornerbacks, holding receivers down the field and drawing pass interference penalties? Although as an NFL fan, what the hell is a pass interference penalty these days? But let's talk about the numbers here, okay? The Chiefs get 6.3 yards per play. Patriots only give up 4.5 yards per play. That's so good. Then you look offensively, Patriots, getting 5.1 yards per play. That's pedestrian in my mind. And then the Kansas City Chiefs giving up 5.6. If you kind of take these averages out, it's actually, let's just take the average, for example. That would be about 5.3 yards per play, just averaging out the Chiefs offense versus the Patriots offense. That'd be 5.3 yards per play for the Chiefs. If you average it out between the Patriots and Chiefs defensively and offensively, the Patriots are at about, 5.35. 5.3 versus 5.35. Pretty much dead even, okay? You look at third down, fourth down conversion percentage. Here's where I'm used to the Patriots doing a little bit better situationally. And I think, it's not about yardage accumulation to me. It's about them being able to extend drives. Now, their defense is sick, only allowing 21.7% percent of the time. Basically, 1 out of 5 third downs, their defense has to stay on the field. Man, this Patriots defense is really good. And it's easy as an NFL fan because we all, myself included, love offense. We love seeing these offensive teams, and you think, oh, man, this team can score. What this Patriots defense is doing, especially being able to force turnovers and their special teams as well, being able to block punts and get in the end zone, it's phenomenal. I think they're going to need a little bit more juice from the offense this week. But let's not discount what a great defense can do, everybody. We saw it last year with Chicago, for crying out loud. Let's see, offensive fourth down conversion is 55% for the Chiefs. 46 third down conversion for the Chiefs, 46%. Those are good numbers. And their defense isn't bad either at getting off the field. I actually think these numbers skew even as good as that third down conversion percentages for the New England Patriots. I think their ability to extend drives, and specifically Patrick Mahomes' athleticism behind the pocket and able to extend plays and kind of throw the ball downfield, I think that favors slightly the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, you could certainly make the argument, and I'm sure if you're a Patriots fan, you would make the argument, and I don't feel strongly enough about that, if you're commenting, for me to give you this whole long list. I really don't. It's just, to me, I feel like that leans a little bit more towards the Chiefs' way, but I certainly accept that is up for debate. Red zone percentage, Chiefs score 53% of the 9% of the times touchdowns. The Patriots only 49% of the time, and given their field goal issues this year, it's no wonder that they've had a tougher time scoring points, putting points up on the board. If they had a better kicker, maybe if Gostkowski was healthy throughout the year, although he had his issues. I don't feel great. I don't feel great about the Patriots being under 50% there. And by the way, I would think that as good as the Chiefs' offense is, they would be better than 55%. I routinely see people above 60% touchdown percentage in the red zone. So, interesting. Turnover margin, you see the Patriots are fantastic, but the Chiefs are pretty good too. 0.7, 1.5. 0.7s are pretty good. It just doesn't look as good next to 1.5, but let me tell you, this is what the Patriots have been doing all year. So, obviously, key to the game is the Chiefs. Can they hold on to the ball? Don't give a full possession away to the Patriots. That's not going to be good. And by the way, I think the Patriots probably need that possession this week. Now, lastly, penalty yardage. I think it's negligible, only a difference of 4 yards. That's, what is that, like an offsides penalty? Not a big deal. Those are pretty close. What I don't like to see in these stats is like a team at 70 or 80 yards or something like that. 50 to 60, it's about average. Both teams are about average. Now let's talk about the path to victory for the Kansas City Chiefs, okay? Because this is going to be a fantastic matchup. matchup. I think it's going to be, if you're just a pure NFL fan, it's going to be on your TV this week because it's going to be a national game. Key matchup, obviously in recent years, Belichick has been doing different things to try to keep a bottle on Tyreek Hill, and that is the first thing that you have to do to defend the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, Andy Reid, I think Belichick is the best coach in the league. I don't think there really is an argument for that. Best coach in the league, tactically speaking, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Now, Andy Reid, to me, is in that 1A type group. He's just under, maybe with a guy like Sean Payton or something like that. And, basically what I'm saying is Belichick, against an average or inferior coach, he'd say, you know what, I'm going to take this player out of the game. And we talked about this in recent game plan videos. I don't think he can do that against Andy Reid. He's not going to say, we're just going to put Gilmore on Tyreek Hill, maybe have a safety kind of roll over in coverage. You can't do that all game against Tyreek Hill. He will get open, and Andy Reid is such a good coach that he'll basically be able to scheme some things up to get Tyreek Hill out in space. So it's not about stopping Tyreek Hill, because I don't think you can do that. It's about limiting him, and I think the Patriots will do that, and that is the key. So obviously the Chiefs want to open him up, and the Patriots want to stop him. It's no surprise, right? You know how these two people are going to go against each other, fighting each other, these two teams. Next, New England's running backs. They've been more productive the last couple of weeks. The Chiefs need to be ready for it. I think that Sony Michel could have a big game this week. I like what he's been doing. I don't love that the offensive line, and especially their center's banged up this week, or out, actually, their center. But I do think the Patriots will be able to run. I think it's going to be more Sony Michel this week than James White, based on some play charts and stuff I look at outside of this program. So the Chiefs are going to have to be ready for it. 30th ranked defense will not do it. Speaking of the run, LaShawn McCoy, Darwin Thompson, they have to get it done. Now, we looked before. I think the Chiefs were somewhere in the 20s. I think the New England Patriots were somewhere around like 5th or 8th in terms of run defense there. Basically, long story short, the Chiefs' run offense, they have to step up, because it can't be one-dimensional against this excellent New England Patriots defense. As good as that one dimension is in the passing game, they have to step it up, okay? The New England Patriots are going to be ready for Hill's speed. Can they defend both Hill and McCole Hardman? I feel like a couple of things that, the Kansas City Chiefs, I think in the offseason, after losing that AFC championship game, I think they started saying, you know what, we have to start building our team to beat and deal with the Patriots in the playoffs. Now, yes, this year they're going to have to, basically deal with the Baltimore Ravens again, probably as well. They're going to have to beat one or both of those teams to get to the Super Bowl. So it's going to be interesting. But I think that a guy like McCole Hardman, not only was he Tyreek Hill insurance before the season, but now you have two players with blazing speed on your team. I think that they've been kind of saving McCole Hardman, if not for the playoffs, for this matchup. I suspect that he's going to get a little bit more. Now, my analytics disagree with me on that. I'm just saying, if I'm looking at this and I chart the plays, I watch these games, I feel like the Chiefs are saving McCole Hardman either for this game or in the playoffs when they match up for him again. Having him and Tyreek Hill, I mean, imagine those two guys both on the left side of the field, one running a go, one running a post or a deep cross or something like that. How do you defend it? It's too much speed to contend with. We have not seen the Chiefs reach their pinnacle in the 2019 season passing game yet. I don't know that they'll unleash that. And I got to say, if I'm Andy Reid, I probably keep that bottled up until playoff time. But that's out there for them. And if they do that, is it something the Patriots can be ready for? And I'll say this once again: if I'm Andy Reid, I'm keeping a bottle on it, and I'm waiting until I play them in the playoffs again. I'm not going to put that stuff on tape so that Belichick and that great, smart coaching staff can prepare for it come January. Now, for the Patriots, okay, I apologize to Patriots fans here and everybody else looking for something more intense, but, usually I try to do about 4 to 5 things. I look at the play charts, I do all this stuff. For the Patriots, I really think it's pretty easy. I only have these 3 points here, and I really... I'm not going to hit you over the head with needless analysis, right? The Patriots receivers, they're banged up. Like I said before, I think Jacoby Myers, it's time for him to really try to take control outside. Maybe Sanu, if he can play, maybe the Patriots coaching staff will put him there, especially because I think that this running game will get going for New England this week. And I mentioned before that Mohamed Sanu can block. But I like Myers going forward into the season, and also N'Keal Harry. I think he's only in his 3rd game back this week from the injured reserve list. He's going to continue to get better and better and better. I think this Patriots offense is starting to put it together. and maybe by the time we get to the playoffs, the narrative nationally will have changed. I'm not somebody who freaks out. One of my number one rules when betting is never bet against Bill Belichick, and I won't do it in any situation. Next thing, Belichick is going to do his best to limit Tyreek Hill. So Travis Kelce becomes the big liability, right? So they're going to be trying to cover over the top. I don't think that Gilmore, as great as Gilmore is playing, I don't think he's going to be able to do it himself, or even if, I don't know that the Patriots will do that. Maybe they'll have Gilmore go over and just lock down Sammy Watkins, and they'll try to double cover Tyreek Hill all game. We'll see what happens. But I think that Travis Kelce kind of in seam routes is the big liability for the defense. So somebody's got to step up there and limit them. I think Kelce is huge for the Kansas City Chiefs. Lastly here, the Patriots, they've been feasting off mistakes of other teams. I don't think they can count on the Chiefs to beat themselves this week. I don't think they can count on, like what we saw in Dallas, them giving up a big pump block or anything like that. Patriots offense has to step up. I think they need to control the clock. I think they can do that. So that's why I think Sony Michel will have a little bit of a better game. Let's move it on now to the fantasy football projections. Again, my RoccoBot, my daily fantasy algorithm, I call RoccoBot here. I don't always agree. Let's talk about it. For instance, Patrick Mahomes, he's projected at 14.3. RoccoBot loves the New England Patriots defense and what they do. And I can't really argue with RoccoBot here, but what I will say is it's Patrick Mahomes. You got to feel good about starting him regardless. You drafted Patrick Mahomes to be a star. He's played well against the Patriots the last couple of years as well. I do think he'll exceed this expectation. I would certainly start him if I had him on my fantasy team. LaShawn McCoy at 8.3, Darwin Thompson at 7.4. I don't like these. These would be sit grades for me, and I still think I would sit them, especially with the way McCoy holds the ball. It's just like a loaf of bread. It's awful. Tyreek Hill, 14.6 points. I like that. That's a start projection and a touchdown projection. You see Sammy Watkins and McCole Hardman. Those are sit projections. Anybody basically under a 10 is generally a sit in terms of RoccoBot's projections there. Don't love it, but Travis Kelce, that is a good start. That's a thumbs up. And the defense and special teams, although we've heard of the offensive struggles of the New England Patriots, RoccoBot doesn't buy into that. They don't. That's a sit for the Kansas City Chiefs defense. Let's talk about the New England Patriots fantasy football prospects here. Tom Brady at a 19.5, that's a start. I've talked about Michelle, 11.6. RoccoBot likes James White a little bit more, catching passes out of the backfield and getting into the end zone. Now, I disagree. I think it's going to be Sony Michel. I think we're going to see more power running than we've seen from the Patriots this season. Remember, coming into the year, before all that Antonio Brown drama, they were projected to be a power running team, and then, it never really kind of panned out that way as we've seen in the numbers. But I think this is the week we start to see New England's running game, even with the injuries on the offensive line, start to put it together. So I respectfully disagree with RoccoBot, but there you go. Julian Edelman is a definite start. Sanu is a sit. Dorsett's a sit. I mentioned before, I like Jacoby Myers. He's not even listed here. He didn't have a great projection as for RoccoBot, but I think he'll do better and better. I like what I see from him. Ben Watson, it's a sit. Defense and special teams, though, that's a start. That's number one ranked defense, which is funny. It's funny how much RoccoBot respects basically the 49ers and the Patriots defense, loves them no matter who they play. I don't think that they're going to score 12.1 points per game. I don't think they're going to be the top-ranked defense this week just because Kansas City's offense is so good, but I do think they are certainly start-worthy. And let's go ahead and move it forward now with the RoccoBot segment. RoccoBot's top 10 computer-projected players at each position. If you play daily fantasy or if you're in the fantasy football playoffs, you're going to want to see this segment. So let's just go ahead and start, as I always do here, with quarterbacks in order. RoccoBot projects Tannehill, Cousins, Wilson, Brissett, Rodgers, Wentz, Winston, Watson, Darnold, and Matt Ryan. You see a lot of value out here on the possibly waiver wire pickups. If you're really hurting a quarterback, Ryan Tannehill being the number one rated quarterback, I did not expect that, but playing against a 26th ranked passing defense with some weapons at his disposal, RoccoBot likes it, and I'll tell you what, I like it as well. You see Kirk Cousins also a waiver wire quarterback, Brissett a waiver wire quarterback, Sam Darnold a waiver wire quarterback. So you can find value out there, whether it's fantasy football or in the playoffs. Now, I would not suggest, I'm not going to suggest starting Ryan Tannehill over Patrick Mahomes. I think that kind of thing would be madness. But if you're playing daily fantasy, don't buy Mahomes this week. Go ahead and buy Tannehill, see where it gets you. I like that. Let's move it on to the next position group, and we have defense and special teams, the sexy position, right? Defense and special teams. New England playing Kansas City. I think I disagree with RoccoBot, as I said in the game plan there. I think that New England is going to score a little bit less than 12.1, but I still think they're worth playing for sure. You got Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Green Bay, Baltimore, Tennessee, the New York Jets versus the Miami Dolphins, who just, by the way, the Dolphins lit up the Philadelphia Eagles last week. Carolina, the LA Rams, and Philadelphia. Now, I stay away from Carolina. They're giving up like 80 points to garbage teams. I think they give up to like 30 to Washington. Give me a break. They're giving up like 30 every week. Ron Rivera getting fired. Maybe they play with extra juice. Maybe they don't. I take them off that board. I disagree with RoccoBot there. But the rest of the teams, I think on this list, you can make definitely strong arguments for. Pittsburgh's great every week with that pass rush. San Francisco, I know they're playing a very talented New Orleans defense, but their pass defense is so good. We'll see what their the heavyweight match there between those two NFC teams, as we talked about. We'll see how that goes. Green Bay, Baltimore, Tennessee. I mean, these are all good defenses with good matchups. So again, lots of value there. Next on the list, wide receivers. I do the top 10 here: Godwin, Jeffrey, Moore, Evans, Julio Jones, who's active as of this time, at the time of this recording, I should say. Devontae Adams, Marvin Jones, I have a little bit of apprehension there, having the third-string quarterback thrown his way. Cooper Kupp, Amari Cooper, and Calvin Ridley. So you have a pair of Atlanta wide receivers there. I do like that matchup for Atlanta and Carolina. I was just saying before. DJ Moore, I think, steps up and has a good game. If you're looking for waiver wire plays, I don't really know. I mean, names on this list are going to be owned in all leagues. Not a ton of value out there, but you can feel good about starting these guys if you have them. Next on the list here, tight ends. Darren Waller, I think, has a great game against Tennessee. They certainly need him the Oakland Raiders, to win the game. Austin Hooper, word is that he's going to play. I like his projection. Vance McDonald's an interesting one, as I talked about in my game plan. Again, not included in this episode here of the Sunday Funday. But I like Vance McDonald's matchup. I just don't know that they'll actually exploit that matchup. They seem to want to throw to receivers and ignore their tight ends schematically. I'd like to see more Benny Snell and Vance McDonald in that game. We'll see what happens. The projection's good. I would not play them on my fantasy football roster. I would not pick him up off of waivers and play him in spite of that matchup. I've seen RoccoBot have these projections before, and RoccoBot's usually really, really good with tight ends. I do not trust Vance McDonald this week. Now, I'll play him in some daily fantasy, but not my primary fantasy football leagues. Jack Doyle, who I love, Eric Ebron, since he's out, it's going to be a nice healthy dose, I think, of Jack Doyle targets-wise. Evan Ingram, let's cross that name off the list. Put Caden Smith. Right before I started this, I saw that Evan Ingram is going to be out, so let's just assume that Caden Smith will be in there, and I like his projection as well. Jacob Hollister should be available off of waivers if you need one. Travis Kelce, Jonnu Smith, another waiver wire guy. Tyler Higbee, another waiver wire guy. Remember, Gerald Everett is out for the LA Rams this week, so he'll be good. And then Dallas Goedert, not Zach Ertz, mind you, but Dallas Goedert. So a lot of good waiver wire gems out there for you this week at tight end as well. Top 20 running backs, just because running backs are so important. In order: McCaffrey, Cook, Fournette, Chubb, Gordon, Jones. No surprises there. Not really going out on a limb. But James White showing up on this list in the top 10. It's interesting. Alvin Kamara, Ezekiel Elliott, Benny Snell, who, by the way, should be out on waivers for you. Believe it or not, he's still available in a lot of leagues out there. If you need a running back this week, there's a top 10 one for you. James Conner, at this point, at the time of this recording, is doubtful. He's not likely to play. Snap him up. Next guys on the list, you got Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler, Todd Gurley, Chris Carson, Le'Veon Bell, Devonta Freeman, Mark Ingram, Phillip Lindsay. Honestly, nobody here is going to be available for you in the waiver wire. Maybe if you're lucky, you get a little bit of Phillip Lindsay. I think Royce Freeman, by the way, also has a nice game. Denver versus Minnesota there. But really, your big one waiver wire gem here this week is going to be Benny Snell. There you go. That takes me through all 5 of the primary things. I don't do kicker. Nobody does kicker. And that really takes me through an episode. So, everybody, thanks for sticking with the show. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the content. Hope you found it more useful than a bunch of old guys with bald heads and goatees just laughing at each other's jokes, laugh at that joke, and I know it's stupid, but laugh at it. It's exactly what they do. I hate network television. I hate ESPN. I hate NFL Network. I hate them all. They all suck. But, this show, hopefully you didn't think sucked too much. Like I said, this is going to be a moving target. It's our first attempt. We will have more, people on here, more personalities. And speaking of, one of the personalities I hope to have on here very soon will be ending our show as we move it forward. This is a recording of this week's Underdog NFL Show. Once again, hosted by Chris Horadell and Mario Hines. We're going to be talking, or I should say they are talking, about Odell Beckham and his future in Cleveland. Is he going to try to get himself out this season? We'll see what happens, but we'll conclude the episode there. Once again, everybody, please like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what segments you'd like me to create. This is your show as much as it is ours, so please, let's help us grow this thing and make it cooler together. Thanks, everyone. Let's stay tuned for the NFL show.
Another person who may be leaving his current team sooner rather than later. A lot of smoke coming out of Cleveland that Odell is not happy and that Odell may prefer a change of scenery. Even Beckham himself, when asked about his long-term trajectory with the Cleveland Browns, basically said, yeah, I don't know. Future's the future. We'll see. Not exactly a ringing endorsement.
No, but this isn't Odell begging to leave. I want to put that out on the table. I don't want to create something that's not there. And secondly, and more importantly, rightfully so. I mean, there's been numerous accounts of Odell running wide open, running free, and not Odell Beckham Jr.'s version of open, or the professional version of open, really, really, really open,
right?
Like almost wide open, and not getting the ball. Obviously, it's a little easier to not get the ball if you're winning, but teams not winning, specifically quarterback struggles. So, he's well within his reason to be frustrated and not do that insincere backing of your situation, even though there may be some rumblings or displeasure in the current situation. I actually applaud it because the Browns have disappointed me. So I know that they have disappointed Odell.
Well, let me play devil's advocate to this, and I want to suggest that Odell's as big a part of the problem as anything else. You, Mario Hines, a professional wide receiver who has been paid good money. Well, he's been paid money to play the position. What's the German currency? What were you paid in?
Euros.
Oh, I'm an idiot. Let's not.
And I was there when the euro was smashing the dollar.
Well, that is excellent. And that's why Mario Hines is a millionaire today. But you know damn well that building a rapport with your quarterback is probably the most important thing for any wide receiver to be productive. You can get open, you can do all of that, but if you don't have that rhythm, if you don't have that rapport, it doesn't matter as much. And Beckham did not show up for OTAs. He missed a lot of opportunities to get acquainted to playing with Baker Mayfield and all of those guys prior to the season. And then he expects to jump right in like he's been on this team for 10 years. This isn't New York. This isn't him and Eli. If he doesn't show up for OTAs with the Giants, they have 5 years, 6 years of a relationship to build on. They know what each other is going to do. They know how they're going to play. They know how they're going to react in any given situation. He doesn't have that comfort level with Baker Mayfield, and I think that's why Baker is looking to a guy like Jarvis Landry over Odell, because Baker knows where Jarvis is going to be. He knows what he's going to do. He just doesn't know what to expect from Beckham.
I'll give you that. But that doesn't take away from the reality of the situation you're in, regardless of if you are a piece in that puzzle, which he is. I will full-heartedly say that the opportunity was not maximized for him to build a rapport. In that, obviously, in the crunch time, I think he should understand in football terms that Jarvis Landry is more of a safety blanket. And I think because of Jarvis and Odell's friendship, that had to have been discussed prior to the signing, not in a way of like, I'm going to be the guy that gets the ball in crunch time, but, I know Baker, I've played with Baker type of thing. And then, just being a football player and understanding that, it's not going to happen overnight. With that said, a guy like Odell, or a talent like Odell's, I should say, expects overnight to be 9 games.
Well, okay. So, this is just a disaster from the word go. It doesn't help that the offensive tackle play has been putrid, but we see the highlights of oh, Odell's running free on the left sideline or blah, blah, blah. He beats this guy. You know as well as anyone that just because you beat your man doesn't mean the quarterback can get the ball there. It all depends on what's going on in the course of the play.
Absolutely. And I'm a big stressor of an after-the-fact open player. Again, I work with a lot of high school athletes. The high school football players are notoriously way more open than professionals on every play.
Sure.
And I like to tell kids, especially in film, like you're open after the fact. Either the quarterback's eyes have locked in on a guy and he starts to release, so you start to see the defense start to move towards that way. So you're not open. You that doesn't count as open, because if he was looking at you, you'd be way less open. So those type of things. So I'll give you that, and that's to be understood. But some of the
not even just that, though. Not even just that. If if Odell, he's on the left sideline, he beats his guy on a little stop and go, 12 yards downfield. He's open 30 yards downfield. Baker's flush to his right on the other side. Guy in his face. Getting the ball 30 yards down to the left hash just isn't feasible in that situation.
Yeah, he can't make that throw. I think
that's how pick sixes happen.
Yeah, and that's one of those. That's that example, which was probably the most glaring in the media, was one that was almost icing on the cake. There have been short routes in the midst of a game where there wasn't that much on the line. In regards to the play, where you're like, oh, you're not starting to build a rhythm. You're not building that rhythm and that trust with this guy, and just finding a way to feed him the ball in play low pressure plays, and then that built up to this thing, and add to the fact that the circumstance of the play. So,
fair enough. It's a mess though. Let's talk about you buy a new car, you drive it off the lot, immediately it's worth less. There's a depreciating value that goes along with a player like this. Odell was traded for effectively a first-round pick in Jabril Peppers, a actual first-round pick, and a second-round pick or a third-round pick? I honestly don't remember. I think. But a one. That's what I thought too. So let's go with that. A 1-1 and a 3. What kind of value does Odell Beckham Jr. have right now?
Oh, as it stands, I mean, he'll get 1-1 still.
So like a 1 and a later pick?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that is not a good return on your investment.
That is not, especially if the record is as such and his stats are as such.
And it's interesting, like he's not having that giant season, but he's also not having a horrible season. He's not having the season that maybe we all expected from a guy like Odell Beckham Jr., but whatever he has, let's see, where are we right now? He has 57 catches. So he's on pace, 57 catches and 805 yards in 12 games. So add another third to that. It's basically another, 19 catches. On pace for 76 catches and over 1,000 yards. That would be one of the best seasons any Browns receiver has had in the last couple of decades.
Don't bring perspective and relativity to it, because then you make everyone covering this topic look absurd. But
and by the way, his yard, and people talk like it's dinking and dunking. His yards per reception are 14.1. That's his highest since 2015.
Well, he's been fed up. Okay, let me do asterisk this by saying, like, he's had some splash plays to offset that, which I guess is what happens, just like any running back. So that's not really strong enough argument. But fine, he still wants the ball more, and he also would like to win.
That's fair. I understand that, but you have to be part of the solution or you're part of the problem. And I feel like he is much more part of the problem right now than the solution.
Yeah, well, he can be part of the solution if he gets the ball.
Well, I understand that you're forever going to argue it for the wide receiver, so that is fair enough. Who makes sense to you? Because if we're talking about a first-round value, he's not going to be traded to one of those top handful of teams. Where do we start? Where is his value? Like, let's do a quick yes or no. We don't need a reason. I'm going to start at the 11th pick in the draft, and you tell me if this team would be interested or not. Okay, I'll start at the 32nd pick in the draft, and we'll work our way down, as that is more interesting than going the other way. 32 is Seattle.
No.
It's just culture?
Yeah, just culture, and I think they have who they want on the outside.
31 is Baltimore.
Interesting. I think he would be interested. I don't think Baltimore would be.
See, I think Baltimore would be interested. I think Cleveland would be smart enough to not be. 30 is San Francisco.
Yes.
Yes, with a couple of exclamation
yes.
points. 29 is New England.
Yes. Long time coming.
Do you think so? I don't know. I feel like they might be a little gun shy after the Antonio Brown thing.
I don't think they put the two of them in the same boat.
Fair enough. 28's New Orleans.
Sure. I feel like New Orleans always does this thing.
So you want oh my goodness. You want talk about putting Drew Brees in the best position possible to win. You want to give him Michael Thomas, Taysom Hill, and Odell Beckham Jr. to play with on offense.
And Alvin Kamara, yes.
And Alvin Kamara. That's even as a fan of a team in the NFC, I think that would be fun.
That would be amazing to see.
27 is the Green Bay Packers.
Yes, exclamations.
26 is the Buffalo Bills. I love this because this is where Antonio Brown was previously traded.
Right, and yes. Oh, I mean, yes, the Bills need this type of player like this, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's just an absolute yes, and I think that's a really interesting fit.
Right.
25 is Miami via Houston.
I mean, it's a yes because of how, of course, they would take a player like that.
Okay. 24 is Kansas City?
Yes. No.
No.
They have no
Yeah.
They have no interest.
Okay, yeah, too much there already. Well, you can't give up the 24th pick for a wide receiver. But it's Andy Reid, so who the hell knows? 23 is Minnesota.
I also think no, too much money involved in what they have on the outside right now.
Could you see, who knows how happy Stephon Diggs is?
A 1-for-1, yeah.
Or maybe not straight 1-for-1, but as the main pieces. Could you see something like that? We never see that in the NFL.
We haven't seen that in a long time, actually. That's old days NFL. I just don't think it would happen.
Okay. 22 is Miami again. 21 is Dallas.
Splash.
You can't.
You can't. Yeah, they can't pay for him.
You can't. You're not going to be able to pay him maybe if they lose Amari Cooper.
Yeah, maybe. Which I don't think they will.
I don't either, but they have to pay him, Dak Prescott, and Byron Jones. It's going to be an interesting cap.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah, 20 is Jacksonville via Los Angeles.
Very interesting. I like it. Yes. 19
is Tennessee.
I forget they exist. Yeah, I'm so out of touch on who they have. I know they have
it's AJ Brown and
Brown, yeah,
and maybe AJ Green. Who knows? It's Freudian.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
No.
How about this one? 18 is Oakland via Chicago. Do they do it again?
Talk about somebody that may be done with this. Actually, I think John Gruden is a short memory type of coach. So yes.
17 is Indianapolis.
Ooh, this is so interesting because maybe time's up for my man T.Y. So there could be some.
Why does it have to be though? Why can't they play together?
I don't know. I can't picture in today's NFL. The 1-2 punch is just odd. Like it had to be. They had to be best friends for it to happen in Cleveland.
Okay, so you think that's more of an ego thing than a fit thing?
Yeah. I don't think it happens, and a money thing, like down the line, like even if it's not currently a money thing, down the line, I think it becomes one.
All right, 16 is Oakland again. 15 is Cleveland. 14 is Carolina.
No.
13 is Tampa Bay.
No.
12 is Philadelphia.
Yes.
Like, I honestly think it's possible.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would be giving up the 12th pick in the draft for him, but we'll figure something out. 11 is Denver.
Yes.
And I guess 10 is the highest we'll go, the Los Angeles Chargers.
Oh, no. They have pieces everywhere.
And probably best for Beckham, because if he goes to the Chargers, where he would theoretically fit really nicely opposite Keenan Allen, he would be injured and his career would be over within minutes.
Yes. Yes.
That is a snake-bitten franchise if ever there was one. I had a lot more to talk about, but we're right at the 31-minute mark. So I think we end it here. We ended go out on top, as it were. Very interesting Beckham segment. So For Mario Hines, I'm Chris Horwedel. This has been the Underdog Sports NFL Show. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you back here later this week.